everyone, and welcome to Buzzing About Romance podcast. I am Becky.
And I am Leah.
And make sure you stick around to the end of this episode. We have an exclusive clip from Always Her Love by Melissa Foster, provided to us by Lyric Audio and author Melissa Foster. So Leah.
Yes, Becky.
What are we doing on this episode?
On this episode of Buzzing About Romance, we have an author spotlight episode with Anna Hackett. She is a USA Today bestselling romance author who's passionate about fast-paced, emotion-filled romantic suspense and sci-fi romance, and I am so excited.
So the full bio for Anna is available in our On the Shelf show notes, but here's some things you should know about Anna. She's an Australian that lives in Perth, Western Australia. She is the mother of two busy little boys. Before she became a full-time author, she worked as a miner engineer at mines all around the world. She loves action movies. She loves sci-fi movies and TV shows. She has always been a romance reader. So, to the interview. And welcome to the podcast, Anna.
Thanks for having me. Very excited to be here.
I am super excited that you are here. Yeah, Shauna had emailed us and was like, would you like to have Anna on? I was like, yes, we will. We will make that happen as soon as possible.
Great. Well, I'm excited, and I'm extra excited that you guys are excited. So getting to talk about all my favorite things. So writing, reading, and romance. I'm here for that.
Well, and Leah pretty much is like, you don't need to come, Becky. I got this. I'm like, no, doesn't work that way. You did say that.
I did, but we've also had authors who Becky has fangirled super hard and basically asked me if I was still here.
So Anna's a huge romance reader. We had Julie Garwood on an episode. Like,
she asked me if I was sleeping. Because Becky just didn't stop talking.
You didn't get a chance to get a word in.
I just was kind of sitting back and basking in the moment. And she's like, Leah, are you still there? Did you fall asleep? I'm like, nope, I'm here. Don't worry.
I mean, I tell you, it was so funny because we have a sister podcast that does historical romances, and they had Beverly Jenkins on, was their first episode that they ever dropped. Wow. And they were like, you have to be on this episode with us because we're pretty sure we're just going to sit there and look at her on the Zoom screen. I'm like, holy awkward, you guys. Please stop.
You're not much better, though.
We aren't. We really aren't.
No, but hey, it's lots of fun. And you know, meeting these people whose books you've been reading for years and years is I was a reader long before I was a writer. So I get it. I totally get it.
Well, and that's something, it's really cool with this podcast is we get to talk to these writers that we love. Like Leah is a huge fan of yours. She, screams and yells about your books nonstop. And so it's really awesome that, she now has this opportunity that she gets to be like, I get to talk to Anna Hackett today. And we're like, we got it.
Great. Well, like I said, talking all my favorite things. So happy to be here.
So we just want to get to know you a little bit, help our listeners kind of see where your inspiration comes and how things work for you. So what drew you to write romance? You said you've been a lifelong reader, and romance is a very special genre for you, but it's a switch to flip from reader to writer.
Yeah. So like I said, big reader. And when I started out, I used to read anything when I was younger, but over time, slowly it bubbled up that, romance was my jam. And I guess I craved that happily ever after. There's enough bad stuff going on in the world. I didn't want to read about it when I was, sitting down to relax. So, naturally I started reading more and more romance. And I was actually away on a work trip, working at a mine in Canada, in Quebec, and I ran out of books on that trip. I'd go home and read in the evenings. It was pre-Kindle days, so I'd taken a stash and everyone spoke French and I didn't, so I couldn't sort of go out and socialize maybe how I would normally. So I was just reading and I'm like, okay, I'm out of books. And I was like, well, maybe I should start, trying to write my own. But of course, being a good engineer, I couldn't just start writing. I had to buy lots of books on how to write and look into that and gather all my information before I could start writing. I guess the other thing that I realized once I did start writing my stories was I'd always had a little bit of trouble finding the kind of books that I love, because I write very action-packed romance, and that's what I like to read as well. And I can't always find the right blend of that. Some books have a great romance, but not quite enough action. Some books have an awesome plot, but not quite enough romance. So for me, it was finding that right balance. So suddenly I realized I could write those stories for reader Anna, that had that right balance of that action and romance. So that's where it all started.
Love that. So when you're in your writing process, do you plan and plot, or do you pants your books?
So I plan, engineer, but not as much as you would probably think. When I first started, I was convinced, no, I've got a plot. I'm a planner, engineering background. I need to know, I need to have the plan to follow. But early on, I did, I think, overplot some of those stories. And then when you come to write it, it's almost like you've already written it, and you lose some of that, spark to keep you going. I actually love some of the stuff that comes out as you're writing, that you discover as you're writing a story, the organic stuff. So I write a very loose mud map. So just a few lines for each chapter or each scene in a chapter, just to give me a rough idea. And then, a lot of it does come out organically. So yeah, so I've just got that brief framework. I use a lot of screenwriting tips and tricks for my plotting. But yeah, it's quite loose because I like to see what comes out as I'm writing.
Well, are you someone that the characters talk in your head as you're writing, or, do you hear the voices?
For me, it's a bit more like a movie unfolding. So, and a lot of readers do say when they read my books, it's like watching a movie. And I guess I'm not too surprised, because like I said, I use some of the screenwriting tips and tricks, and that's how it plays out in my head. So yeah, the characters there, they make themselves known. But yeah, for me, it's more like watching a movie and trying to capture that in words. So yeah.
So it's a much more visual forward movement with your creations, which is kind of cool, because then you would see smaller little details that you can bring into the story that way, since, it's a more visual.
Yeah. And because I have a lot of action, so there's a lot of action scenes, fight scenes, it's sort of in your head working out where all the bits are, who's where, what's happening, sometimes down to whose arm is moving where, and trying to make all that work. Because sometimes it's hard. You see something on the screen, and I get a lot of inspiration from watching great TV shows and movies. And my husband's very used to me going, oh, pause. I need to just make a note, because like that, how they did that's amazing. But it doesn't always translate to words. You can't always capture what you see on the screen with words. So sometimes you do need to tweak things, and vice versa. You can describe things with words that on the screen they can't always capture. So it's a trade-off, obviously. But yeah, and at the end of the day, I just have fun with it. So especially with the fight scenes and the action scenes.
So you started with the sci-fi element when you first started writing. Like, what made you switch to just straight contemporary?
I read both, and I think when I first started, I was coming out of having read a lot of paranormal. So that's back when the paranormal craze was huge, and that's where I was finding a lot of the action-packed romance that I was looking for. And I did write a few little paranormal stories early on, but I'm such a huge sci-fi fan, and especially in my movies and TV. So I guess that started to push through as I started writing. And so I just went with it. And then I'd always had more, straight contemporary romantic suspense ideas. And I guess I was just waiting till the time was right to to do that. I started a few sci-fi series and some of those are quite long, fell down a bit of a rabbit hole with some of those. So by the time I was getting to wind up some of those series, it took a little bit longer maybe than I thought in my head before I got to start my first romantic suspense series. And I was starting to read more romantic suspense at the time. I was reading less sci-fi paranormal and had been starting to read more contemporary. So I guess that was just a natural evolution. And now, everything I write is action romance. Now I get to flick between the two subgenres of science fiction romance and romantic suspense, which keeps me really fresh and keeps me writing fast. Because after I've come out of writing a big, world heavy sci-fi, it's really nice to then flick back to sort of the real world and be able to write something contemporary. And I don't think if I was just writing one subgenre, I could actually write as fast as I do, because I think you get a bit almost burned out on that world or something. So yeah, it's really great for me. I can flick between the two subgenres and I really enjoy that.
So your sci-fi worlds, you're in like the Conqueror like galaxy right now, but where do you come up with these detailed worlds? Because there's a lot of world to these books.
Yes. So that's where you get to have fun with it. I get to make stuff up. So actually, there's a bit more research involved in my romantic suspense, because when it's set in a real place, one, you need to make sure that place feels real. And I'm forever working out how long is it going to take to drive from this place in San Francisco to this place somewhere else, because I don't necessarily know that off the top of my head. Whereas in the sci-fi stuff, you can make it up. So that's probably the main difference between them. So there's actually more research for some of the suspense stuff, but there's more world building for the sci-fi. So I do have to sit down and think planets and environments and alien species and names for all of those and how things interact. And especially with, you mentioned Conqueror, which is going to my editor today. So after I finish with you guys, I've got to flick back to finishing my edit. So that's heading off to my editor today. So that's the fourth book in my Galactic Kings. And each planet's got a different sort of environment, and these people have different abilities because of a solar flare that's passed through their system centuries ago. So each planet's different, each set of characters has different abilities. So yeah, that's been very world heavy, because often in my sci-fi, it's all set on the same planet. So I can, I'm already in the world, but this one I had to create a different world for each planet essentially. So it's been lots of fun, but yeah, a lot more world building. So I just sit down and have fun with it. At the
do
end
you
of the
keep
day.
like a binder, because all of your planets and all of your sci-fi, they could counter, they interact and they know each other, but how, do you keep a binder to keep everything straight?
I wish I could say I did, but I don't. So, and every now and then I think, oh, why haven't I created, a lot of authors do have their Bible for their series. So one little tip I do is all the books in a series, I'll paste them all into one big master document so I can very easily search through that, because I'm pretty good at remembering. I mean, my worlds and my characters become very real to me. I always joke, the one thing I can never remember is eye color. I can never remember what color a character's eyes are, after you've written so many books and so many characters. So often I'll have to flick back through to see what color people's eyes are, or I just ask in my reader group because they know. So I'll say, hey, this character, what color were their eyes? So I'm pretty good at remembering some of those details, but I do need to go back and check, especially when there's an interaction with a previous series. So Galactic Kings is set in the same world as Galactic Gladiators, and I have had a few cameos, and I have to go back and check where in the timeline or what things, go and remind myself on some of the details. So
because that is one thing I've noticed, because I've read all the sci-fis up to this point, and you're one of the few that get everything it's all solid. Like every once in a while, like I'll come across a series and I'll be like, oh, like this didn't happen like this, or this is the wrong like couple or the wrong planet name. But I've never come across that in one of your books. So that's why I was like, does she keep like really good records, or is she just that good?
I wish I could say I did. And there are times when I'm like, I really wish I'd kept a good record of this. But now I've got too many books and the series are quite big. So going back to try and pluck all that information out would be too time consuming. But like I said, these characters and places are real to me in my head. That's not to say I remember every single detail. And I do love when a reader like shares a favorite quote from a book and I'm like, I've got no idea what character said that. Like no idea. But it's cool. And yeah, so I don't remember everything. But yeah, for me, they're real. Sometimes I'll fudge it. So some timelines I've just fudged a bit. You keep things a little bit general so you're not going too much in the detail to get it wrong. But yeah, for me, plugging everything into like a big master document that I can search through and double check some of those key timeline elements, especially, or descriptions of things, is my little hack for checking that I get everything right.
My little like type A planner heart is like anxiety for you right now.
But yeah, totally. Like, believe me, there's times I sit down and I think, oh, and actually, after I send Conqueror off today, I'm getting back to work on a Treasure Hunter Security Team 52 Norcross Security crossover novella. So everyone's making an appearance, and I sat down to write it.
I am so excited for this. Like so excited.
I'm having lots of fun with it. So it's very much Treasure Hunt Security Team 52 with a dash of Norcross. So the main storyline is very Treasure Hunter Security Team 52. So those series are complete. So it's so fun to go back and revisit those, and they've got a much more adventure flavor.
Well, I actually I hadn't listened to audiobooks before, but I've started listening to audio, and I just did a complete like series listen to the Treasure Hunters when I found out you were doing that crossover, because it's been so long since I've read them. I was like, ooh, I'm going to listen to all of these. I'm so excited.
Awesome. So yeah, so I've written the first few chapters and I'm back to work on that tomorrow. So that's been fun, but I had to sit down and do a timeline because I really wasn't sure. You know,
in the series timelines, they move pretty fast too.
Yes. So, I mean, usually there's not long gaps between my books. So I finish one and there's a strong lead into the next story. So, but yeah, between all of those, and they different characters have made appearances. They're set in everyday life. So I can have those characters make appearances in other books. So yeah, I had to sit down and like untangle the timeline and unpick stuff. And a few times I was like, oh, I thought that happened there, but lucky I wrote this timeline because it didn't. So yes. So no, but I mean, the main, it's a novella, so it's not going to be super long, but the main hero and heroine, there's appearances by everyone, but the main hero and heroine are new. So it's their story at the end of the day. So yeah, but it's lots of fun. So I'm hoping to get that finished this week. And excited to get that out next month along with Conqueror. So
fun. So you have like 70 plus books written. I tried to count, but it was an off day. So I think it's 70 plus books written. Numbers are hard sometimes. What is something you know now that you wish you had known back when you were writing that first book?
You know what? I don't think there's anything. I have zero regrets. I've loved every book and series I've written. And you know, I'm fully indie now. So initially my first few stories I'd sold to a publisher, and I am having a bit of a wrestling match trying to get one of those back at the moment. So that's the only thing that I would change, that I would have gone straight indie early on. But then again, I learned so much, and I did have a good time at that time working with my editor and the publisher, and I learned a lot from that. So no regrets. And I knew going in, like I said, I was a reader long before I was a writer. It wasn't ever about one book for me. It was about, as a reader, I love getting that flow of new releases coming and knowing I can depend on my favorite authors to get me a great story every well, back then it was every year, but you hope that they get it to you quicker. And that was what I wanted to do for my readers. I'm like, if there was one thing I could do that I would love my favorite authors to do, is get me more than one book a year. So that really motivated me to want to improve my writing pace and storytelling so I could do that. So I knew it was a marathon. I knew it wasn't about one book or one series. It was always going to be, and I've got so many story ideas, forever on the boil up here. I think I've got a few years worth. So for me, it was just always about getting those stories out and moving on to the next story and moving on to the next story and keep writing and telling the stories that I love to read and hopefully my readers enjoy as well.
So I think that's something that people don't really kind of grasp, that if they've really just been reading since the indie author movement, that many of us, it was one book a year, maybe two books a year.
It was like the month of June.
June and November, and a lot of times you'd get that book May, June, and then you'd get a paperback of it in November. And I don't think they understand that how much the indie authors have changed how we consume the material and how much ebooks have changed how we consume this material. And to be a reader now is so much better than when I was a reader. I mean, that's when you reread, because you got 4 new books at the end of May, but you weren't going to get any more until November. And you were stuck. You just had to keep rereading.
Yeah, I mean, I was having a similar discussion with my sons who are 8 and 11 about, when Mummy and Daddy watched TV, we couldn't pause it. We couldn't pick the episode we wanted, pause it to go and get our snack and come back and keep watching. I said it came out once a week at a certain time and you had to watch it. And they were complaining about commercials, because usually they're watching on Netflix and there's no commercials, and they were watching something that had commercials. And I said, well, everything we watched had commercials. And they're just staring at me blankly, like, and I'm like, you're never going to know this. Everything is on demand for you. And, and I think as a reader now that is great that, my favorite authors do get me more than one book a year now. Yeah. And it has really changed. And, when I describe to non-reader people, I'm an author, and then when they say, oh, how many books have you written? And you tell them, and everyone's like, eyes like fall out of their head. And how many books a year? And when I say like about 10, and I say to them, I'm like the Netflix of writing now. I write a bit shorter and more frequently. Everyone wants to download the next one now. So I said, that's how readers are. It's not work on your, magic book for a year
that great
or 2
novel,
years.
The great novel that's, you're never going to get and complete.
You're never going to complete. Yeah.
It's funny because, we get the same as readers. We get kind of the same reaction when people be like, how many books do you read a year? I do not read as fast as Leah, and I do not read as many novellas as Leah, but I hit about 425 books and she hits like 1,200.
It's bad.
It's bad. But everyone will be like, great. How do you read all?
It's a lot of books.
People will be like, how do you read that many? And I'm like, well, I don't know. I don't consume TV really, except I did this weekend because, well, Dairy Girls is back on the US Netflix, so I have to watch.
It is?
Yes. Anyway, okay. That's everybody knows what I'm doing this week. It's season 3 of Dairy Girls. Which Anna's probably already watched because it was out like a year ago.
I don't watch TV. So this is like, I've got some friends and they say, I watch a bit when I say I don't. And they're like, oh, I binged something on the weekend. And I'm like, I had edits to do and kids to take to a soccer game. And then another one had to go to swimming lessons. And then my husband wanted me to help with something around the house. And then he actually wanted some attention because he's last on the list usually. And then I had to plot out something else, and I had to answer some emails, and I had to fix something on my website. And I'm like, when do people watch TV? So occasionally we'll get to watch an episode of something once a week, my husband and I, and it's generally something sci-fi because we
watch TV like when our kids go to bed, my kids are 11 and 8 also. So like they go to their rooms and then we have like our alone time. So like my husband will put on a show and I read a book. So like we are spending time together, but I don't want to watch half the stuff that's on there. So he watches, I read, and we are happy, hunky dory.
And see, that's where my husband's lucky. So I will always choose the action movie over anything else. And I will always choose the sci-fi TV show over anything else. And same stuff he enjoys. So we can often watch something, but often by the time the kids are in bed and
You're
then
exhausted.
He's got to like do our personal finances and I've got to fill out something for the kids for school or, and then suddenly you're tired. And I like to read when I get into bed. So I read every day. I've turned into much more of a rereader because now that since I started writing and I've got kids, my time for reading and TV watching obviously has shrunk significantly. So I'm very protective of it. So I'm actually find myself, unfortunately, much less willing to try new authors because I need to guarantee what I'm going to read is going to work for me in that short period of time I've got to read. So it turns out I reread a lot more because I know I'm going to enjoy rereading something again. And then I wait for my favorite few authors to release stuff. So yes. So look, I actually would like to watch a bit more TV because like I said, I do get a lot of inspiration out of, great storytelling is what really hits the spot.
Dairy
for me,
Girls is fantastic. If you haven't watched it, it takes place in 1980s Northern Ireland.
I've heard of it. Yeah.
So funny.
I'll put it on my list.
It's such great humor. And honestly, my husband's family, when they were watching season 3, his one cousin messaged me and she's like, I'm watching season 3. And I'm like, it's really mean. It's really, really mean that you're doing this. She's like, well, if you lived here, I was like, yeah, I know. Thanks. Thanks for the reminder. They're so nice. Okay. So when you go to approach, and we kind of talked about it a little bit too, but do you have to kind of switch things in your mind when you're writing like the sci-fi book versus writing that romantic suspense book? Like, how do your approach has to be different.
Yeah, not in the big picture. When I sit down to plot, it's similar process that I use. There's a few things, and it's really once I start writing the story. So I guess the romantic suspense stuff is slightly more focused on the characters in the romance, and the sci-fi stuff, there's more world building. So because there's more world building and a little bit more action probably, that takes up more room in the story. So that room in a romantic suspense is taken up a bit more by the romance and the characters. So but again, it's probably a subtle difference. In the romantic suspense, I can use the dialogue's probably a bit more fun because you can use more slang and when you've got an alien warrior hero, he's not using slang and that kind of stuff. So, the dialogue's a touch different. So look, there's a few subtle differences, but I would say big picture, I don't do anything that differently. But once you get down into the nitty-gritty details, there's more world building stuff that goes on in the sci-fi. And, we were talking before, all the alien species and beasts and character names and all of that and environments of a planet and the plants that grow there. You need to think through all of that kind of stuff.
Well, because they're not just normal plants. They attack things.
That's right.
Don't you just want to name one of your aliens like Frank? Just once. Have an alien that just has like a really, really plain human name.
Well, then you would have to change the K to a C and put an apostrophe or something to make it sound like alien-like.
True.
But look, that's part of the world building is, and it's always a balance to try and get it so it's relatable. People can picture what you're talking about, but also make it feel alien. People want to be, sci-fi readers want to be transported somewhere different. So, so names I spend quite a bit of time with because I like the name to resonate with whatever it, if it's a big overprotective alien warrior, then his name sort of needs to resonate with that. Frank might not work. And a planet, all of that, whatever that planet's like, I try and find a name that gives you the feel of that, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Do you like search for names, or do you just make them up?
No, I search. So baby name websites are brilliant. And a lot of them now will have like futuristic sounding names, and there's also a lot of alien name generators. The generators will come up with like random lists of names for planets and species and all that kind of stuff. So it's nice to flick through there. I do keep a little list. So every now and then I'll hear something and I'll think, oh, that would be the most awesome alien, hero name. So I do keep a little list of potential alien hero names that I can use.
That's so fun. Yeah. So you probably your sci-fi is probably not as tropey as what your romantic suspense is going to be. But do you try to put tropes within the sci-fi, or is it just, if it happens to be a trope, then it works, but it's not, you're not going in it and writing, this is a second chance romance, or?
Yeah, that's a great question. So probably with the sci-fi, it's not so much about a trope as a cool hook. So my Gladiator, the first book in Galactic Gladiators, the heroine's been abducted and dumped in a arena, the blood-soaked sands of an arena on the outer rim of the galaxy, facing off with an alien gladiator. So, it's more about that interesting hook rather than the tropes that we're very familiar with, especially in contemporary romance. But you can get some of those elements in, and there's probably sci-fi romance probably has some of its own tropes, like the alien abduction thing. The heroine abducted from Earth is a very popular trope. And, it's popular for a few reasons, but as an author, it gives the reader someone to relate to as they land in this new alien world. So you don't feel like everything's completely alien to you. So I can see why that trope's become very popular. And the warrior hero, it's like the protector hero, I guess, in contemporary romance, but with some steroids. You end up with your alien warrior hero. Even the whole monster romance thing, I think a lot of it probably started in sci-fi romance with these very alien heroes who are like a lizard or I don't write that type of stuff, but it's popular. So the lizard type hero or the spider type hero or the kraken type hero, or pick your monster, they've turned that into an alien. So, there's a lot of tropes around that kind of stuff. So yeah, for me, it's less trope driven than sci-fi. I go after that hook. But I guess at the end of the day, it comes through that my favorite trope is that protector hero, whether he's a ex-military or law enforcement or a spy. A lot of my sci-fi heroes have a lot of those elements in them as well, even though they're an alien warrior. There's a lot of that military feel to what I write. I know what tropes I never write. I don't know if Leah can guess what tropes I never write.
I don't know.
I don't write second chance romance. Sorry,
it's
not.
You've never written one of those.
Thank you, Jesus. Thank you.
I like a really uplifting story. I like to inspire and entertain my readers. And with second chance, there's a lot of angsty stuff to work through, and that doesn't work for me.
Well, so, and it has to be
I'm going through like your backlist in my head, and I'm like, no, there's not. You do like a sibling's best friend, though.
Yeah. So sometimes they've known each other or they've had a crush, but it never got far enough for it then to be classed as a second chance when they get together later on. I guess I love that fresh, fun feeling of two people meeting for the first time or realizing that there's something there. And I just feel like with second chance, there's all this baggage on it. It's not to say I don't believe in second chance, go for it, but it's not doesn't light my fire. So I don't
Doesn't
write
have the
second chance
spark. Second chance doesn't always have that big sparky moment, and I'm an instant connection, instant lust kind of reader.
Or there's a lot of times her hero and heroine will rub each other the wrong way, and there's a lot of friction, and so it's like there's a little bit of enemy element, but they're not really enemies, but it's just like the sexual
enough.
tension.
Yeah. So all of that totally lights my fire, but not second chance. The other thing I don't write a lot of is kids, and especially not babies. I've got an 8 and 11-year-old, and when I really kicked my writing into gear, I had a newborn and a toddler, and I was excruciatingly aware that romance and a baby and a toddler didn't mix very well. And especially for me, writing such fast-paced, action-packed books, it's very hard to get kids in there in a convincing way. So I do have the odd child here and there. They're usually older. But for me, I just have a really hard time making babies and young children work in a romance because they're really anti-romantic in real life.
That or your heroines are pregnant, but they're just pregnant for a while. So
that's right. So I can make that work, and then the baby can come after the happily ever after.
Well, and the other thing, and I don't see it very often with kids, but when an author will write like a pet, the cat will be there in the beginning of the book. By the end of the book, I will be like, what happened to the freaking cat? Nobody went back to feed the cat or let
She does have a couple pets in her sci-fi romances, but the pets are very instrumental in like their rescue. So the pets stay.
Yeah, so I do have some alien pets, or usually it's like some wild animal has attached themselves to the hero or the heroine and aren't letting go. So,
but it's some sort of alien being.
Yeah, so I get to have fun with that. But they're aliens. They can take care of themselves. They don't need to be let in or out.
I always have moments. I'm always having moments where like, who took the dog potty today? Like my dogs are in and out all the time. Like we have a door that they can move in and out when the weather is nice. And, I spend a lot of time in the winter letting them in and out. So
that's the worst.
Who does
I don't do a lot of pets either. So again, and usually my heroes and heroines, like something, the world's in jeopardy or someone's in jeopardy and they've got to fly off to save the day, and they're not home for the whole book. So actually that was a big driver when I wrote my Norcross Security series, which was a much more contemporary feel romantic suspense, because I'd written Treasure Hunter Security, which I always call my Indiana Jones romances, and then Team 52, more military feel, but again, still that adventure, and they're off saving the world.
Sci-fi elements like blended in though.
It does. So, the thing with the Team 52 is the idea is that the world, ancient cultures were a lot more advanced than we knew, and piece of this ancient technology turn up. They look like artifacts, but they can do amazing things. So it's not really magic, but there's like that element of sci-fi, because these people have created some amazing piece of technology, and we never knew about it. They got destroyed in the Ice Age, and then they're popping up. So, I got to have fun with that. But those people are always rushing off to save the day. So when I was talking with some author friends as I had these ideas for Norcross Security, and I said, I want to be in the same place. I want my characters to be able to eat a meal, like, go out for dinner. I had all these like rushing off and flying all over the world to save the day and trekking to a lost temple, and all that was awesome, and I loved it, but I was a bit tired from that, and I needed a slightly different flavor. So Norcross Security is set in San Francisco, and they pretty much stay in San Francisco and the surrounds. And there's a lot of action still, but people actually eat a meal occasionally. So so that was what was the driver for just a slightly different flavor. Still the action and romance, but I was just like, let's not fly all around the world and not have a chance to catch our breath, let alone eat or sleep. So
right. So you you were not a writer. That was not like your chosen career when you first started out in the grown-up world. And you went from an engineer, which is a very, analytical, math focused, to creating a world that, and that's such a big switch. What was the decision to write that first book? So what happened in your life that you were like, I'm going to try writing? Well, you talked about how you didn't have books. You ran out of books.
Yeah.
But...
Yeah. And I think too, I'd always in my head as I'm reading, and I don't know if you guys do this as readers, rewritten the stories that didn't work for me in my head. I'm like, I totally wouldn't have done that. Like, why wouldn't you have the character do this and then you could do this and their background could be this and like, and oh, this is really boring. Like I read a book recently that someone had recommended. I'm like, the whole book, they were in a house. Like she went into the garden once, I think, and maybe to the mall once. And I'm like, this whole book is set in a house, which is like, compared to my books, is like totally crazy. And I wanted something to happen so desperately. The romance was all right, but I'm like, there was not enough action for me.
Go out on the porch.
I'm like, go for a swim in the pool. Like, it's just, they were in the house the whole time. So I think for me, I was used to that as a reader, of fixing the stories in my head for the ones that didn't hit the spot right for me. And I do that with movies. Or we were actually watching the new Star Wars TV show, Andor, that came out recently. My husband's a huge Star Wars fan, so we were watching that, and I'm like, why didn't they do this and that? And I'm like, if they did this, that would make me like this character so much more. And, my husband just gives me the look now, so he's used to it, and he's like, I totally agree with you. Now be quiet so we can.
Could you stop
the show? Yeah. So
my
yeah,
husband has started troping.
Something.
My husband has started troping his shows. He'd be like, this is a friends to lovers. I'm like, because he does all our audio production for our podcast.
He spends too much time in our world.
I was like, he just listens to us.
Trained him well.
Too much.
Trained him well. So look, I think that's where it came from. I had that spark of being away, run out of things to read. And I was like, maybe I'll start writing my own. And I think in the back of my head, I was used to reworking things that didn't work for me. And like I mentioned earlier, finding that right balance of action and romance for me, I finally could do that in my books.
Was it scary to push publish on that first story?
Of course it is. I mean, you put your heart and soul and blood and sweat and tears into something, and there's a little bit of every author in their story. So of course it's terrifying to put it out there and suddenly everyone's got an opinion on it. So yes, very hard. But look, I remind myself every day that not everyone's going to like my books. There's books I read that are perfectly well written. They're just not for me. And I get that. So, a vegetarian isn't going to eat a steak. So my steak isn't going to make a vegetarian happy. I just pour all my energy and attention on the readers that love reading what I like to write. So
we have the mantra, not every book is for everybody, and we will never yuck anyone's yum, because we read some bonker shit. So
we really do.
Honestly, we have no space to talk.
Yeah, no, look, and every author, every reader has, I think, that same view, and every author, there's times when you see a book that's everyone's talking about it and you read it and you're like, what?
Oh,
yep.
Why?
Oh, yes.
We have
so
this
much. Yes.
We have this problem weekly
all
around here. We also do the like, why is this doing so well? Like, we'll go, with the podcast, we try to stay up on what is trending and what people are talking about, and it's been a year now. And I've been complaining about the same book
that have been trending.
And people are like, this was the spiciest book I ever read. And I'm like, 3 kisses and 1 sex scene, people, is not a spicy book, does it make? At all.
Yeah, no. So look, I totally get it. I do the same thing. And I think, this book's doing so well. Everyone's talking about it. I better read it. And I'm like, I've got a few great author friends here. We get together and write together. Or we'll do, video calls and do writing sprints and that. So they're sprinting without me today, but I have to finish my edits on Concrete anyway, so I wouldn't have been writing with them today anyway. But yeah, sometimes we'll be like, oh yeah, this book, let's all read it. And we come back and we're just like,
Yeah.
okay. So what I take from that is that there is a group of readers out there for every book.
There is.
And you should find your people and write your stories for your people. And those other people can go and find the books that work for them. So there's something for everybody.
Our people are the people that, like the sex with the door wide open. Those are our people.
Oh,
They don't
I'm
even
the
have
same.
to have the door open. They just need to be having the sex somewhere. It doesn't have to be indoors.
Yeah.
It could be outside.
Yeah.
Well, I meant like
Totally.
open door, like we will see it, kind of.
And I'm the same. So all my books have a similar heat level, and I feel robbed. I got a free novella the other day. I took a chance and I didn't mind the story, but there was no payoff for me at the end of that novella, and I was robbed. And I didn't care that it was free. I was like, where's my sex scene? Because this isn't working.
Leah likes to bring up, I made her read a Christmas book that
They didn't even kiss,
They
I
only-
don't think.
they had
Or
one
they
kiss.
kissed
Just watch
once.
Hallmark, right? If you want that.
But
It
she
was
was
very
like, this book
Hallmarky.
is so good. I'm
It
like,
was well
okay.
written.
It is a very good book, but I was expecting, especially from Becky, who does not like.
But I
tell
don't read
any
holiday
closed
novel.
door.
I don't read holiday books because I
And she's
hate
like,
Christmas.
this book is really good. I'm like, yeah, it was really good, but there
You
was
can't
no
pull a Swiftie like that,
sex.
Becky.
I know.
Can't pull a Swiftie.
None.
They
It was kind of the worst.
It was the
yeah, and
worst.
it's a bit like books where the cover doesn't match the content. So
I
it's
get very feisty about
I
that one.
see everyone's eyes go big there.
Mhm.
So and there's some current trends in book covers at the moment, which I'm not quite ready to go down that path yet, because
okay.
when I see them, I have no idea what I'm getting in that book.
I
and people are
enjoy
doing
your
it in-
covers very much.
I'm going to say it. I want the
you.
abs. I want the dude. I'll even take a couple, but they got to be in a hot, steamy embrace, and it's got to look like things are happening. I cannot. So, I've been reading romance since 1990. I've been doing this a lot of years. I've lived through the object covers. I've lived through
even
the
her
item
aliens
covers.
are delightful. Like, look at these
know.
abs on this guy.
Look at that guy.
So
But
good.
even her,
Hot.
even this one, like, look how
Right.
how hot that
Things are
is.
happening. Things are happening. I need
It's
those
delightful.
things. But I will say, I'm a bit of a slut for an illustrated cover. Like if it's
But I
really
like an illustrated cover on a rom-com only, but that's just my personal.
well, but I've read some that aren't rom-coms, but they're contemporary romance, and they're very clear they're not rom-coms. But I'm a slut for an
I don't know.
illustrated
I've
cover.
got an 8 and a 11-year-old. I don't really need a book with a cover that looks like it could be in their pile
This-
of books
this
and
is
not
fair.
my pile of books.
Yeah, because my
Um,
8-year-old will probably just start reading it and be like, "Oops, that's not for you."
I'd have to pin mine down to get them to do that, unfortunately. So, but that's okay. I tricked
she
them
loves
into reading.
to read. She loves reading. Like that's what we do every night. We read together, and so. But all of these, like these, stay downstairs. They don't go upstairs.
And my two, I've got boys, which I think does make a slight difference on the whole reading thing. But my youngest is a great reader and he likes reading. So in the evening, he reads to dad. But I haven't found the books where he's reading, but he's not loving the story. I haven't seen him connect. Whereas the older one, I will see him connect with books, but getting him to sit still long enough to read. Like when I say, well, why don't you go and read a book? He gives me this look like, I said, I'm bored. I don't want to be more bored.
No, my 11-year-old does that too. He's like, I'm bored. I'm like, go read a book. Well, I don't want to do that. Like, that's boring. I'm like, really?
So I still read to my 11-year-old because I was like, screw this. I'm not going to just let this drift off into oblivion that he's not reading. So he loves for me to read to him. So I think I'm going to need to get him into audiobooks. I think he actually learns best
Auditory.
from listening.
Yeah.
And his father is the same. So he loves a good podcast or listening. Reading's not reading the words doesn't connect with him. So I will slowly integrate him into audiobooks. But right now I'm going to read to him as long as he'll let me.
So my kids are older, but my 19-year-old is an auditory learner and has some other executive function disorder issues, but comic books. And he read like every X-Men comic that was ever, like, we got him the comic book app and he read them all and to detail, and he can tell us like this happened in this episode with this, and
The
I'm
actual
just like,
story is resonating. Yeah,
dude,
I've tried some graphic novels as well, which they read them. I just, it's just not. I haven't. I want a reader like I was a reader, and I don't have one of those.
I have one of those in the form of my girl child, and she, I can't keep her in books.
It's the same. My boy child just wants to play with Lego and like create things, and then my youngest will read with me all the time.
Anna, you have a large backlist. If someone is just now finding you as an author, where would you have them start? What is your current best representation as to how you're writing and telling stories now? And give us a contemporary option and then also a sci-fi option.
And that's usually the question I ask someone first is, do you want sort of contemporary romantic suspense or a sci-fi? And if they say contemporary romantic suspense, I say the first book in my Norcross series, so The Investigator, that's very much contemporary romantic suspense. But if they want a little bit more action or adventure, then I will recommend Undiscovered, which is the first treasure hunt security. So that's very much Lost Temple and the Sands of Egypt, Indiana Jones style romantic suspense. So different flavors, the city or the adventure. For sci-fi, I usually recommend Gladiator or Edge of Eon, which is my Eon Warriors series. So one slightly more military feel, I guess, and one's, Gladiator's got a slightly different feel again, but I think they're a good starting point. And then I have my readers who come in as romantic suspense readers who want to try the sci-fi, but they don't know where to start. And I usually direct them there to my Hell Squad series. So the first book's called Marcus, which is set on Earth in the not too distant future. And the aliens are the bad guys. The aliens have invaded. So it's a little bit of a military romance feel. The heroes and heroines most of them are human. And the aliens are the bad guys. So I feel like it's got the feel of a military romance or romantic suspense, but it's got the sci-fi as well. So that's a good bridge between the two, I guess. So so there you go. You asked for one and I gave you 5.
That's perfect.
And when anybody's asks about your sci-fi, I always tell them like you're alien light, because like they're aliens, but they're very human-like aliens. So I'm like, there's no blue penises, no like nubs, nothing like that. Like, so I always say
no
she's
true
alien light. No.
Yeah. Yes. So I write humanoid aliens. So usually I've got a background that some higher alien race seeded life through the galaxy, and we all started from the same breeding stock. So we're similar, but over the centuries and millennia have got different quirks, but not totally different species, I guess. So yes, so I'm here, like I said, for the action and adventure. I'm not here to explore totally different alien life mating with us, which is highly unlikely to happen anyway. So
that's fair. So what's next for you, Anna?
So I mentioned earlier today, I'm going to finish off Conqueror, which is the last book in my Galactic Kings series, and send that off to my editor. That's coming out next month. I've got my crossover novella, which is a bit of a mashup of my 3 main romantic suspense series. That's coming out. It's actually part of a book club. It's going to be free, the Protector Romance Book Club. And then I'll probably just give it to my readers after that anyway. And then I'm back to my new romantic suspense series. So I'll be plotting out and starting work on Striker, which is the 3rd Sentinel security book. So this is they're all sort of ex-military, ex-international law enforcement. This has got slightly more international flavor than Norcross. It's a bit of a crossover with Norcross, but these guys were heading a bit more international. So the last book we ended up in Italy, and I haven't mentioned this, but Striker's book will end up in London. So yeah, so I'm having fun with those. So it's romantic suspense, but a bit more of an international feel to it. So having lots of fun with those. And the first two books, Wolf and Hades, the readers seem to be enjoying those. So yeah, so
Wolf, I will tell you that like our Discord is bonkers for Wolf. Like our community, they have talked about it like nonstop.
Delightfully dirty.
So
delightfully dirty.
And I do get a lot more of the tropes into the contemporary romantic suspense. You can just slot it in there more easily than the sci-fi.
None of yours are overly tropey, which I like.
No, but when I sit down to write, like I might, that trope's often a starting point for me, but it's not the be all and end all of the story. Like, and often when you see the brother's best friend or the whatever people put it in the title, what the trope is, then I know they're going to be really milking that trope for everything. And that's fine. Some of those are great. But for me, I've got to get the action and the romance and a touch of the trope.
I wish they'd stop putting them in the title. So yeah.
Yeah. There are ways to make it obvious, but it clearly helps them find the right readers.
It's for marketing and searching. I mean, I know why, but we just don't love it.
Yeah. Yes.
Anyway, Anna, thank you so much for joining us and coming on and sharing about your books with us.
Well, thanks again for having me. Like I said, getting to talk about books and romance is my favorite thing to do. So
excellent. So you guys Anna, are most of your books in Kindle Unlimited, or you have a little bit of a mix?
Most of them now are Kindle Unlimited. I think there's still a couple that I have wide, just, very earlier stuff, novellas, just so, readers can test it out. But most of it slowly is now all shifting towards
Kindle Unlimited.
So most of my readers are there.
Mm-hmm.
So you can find Anna's books in Kindle Unlimited. And thank you.
Thanks again.
Okay, so that was a lovely chat.
She is delightful and amazing, and I'm so excited that we got to talk to her.
Yeah, like seriously, I thought Leah was gonna like push me out of the way and just be like, "This is my episode, go away."
You just needed to be there as like a secondary person in case I just got too like caught up. But
yeah, she was delightful to chit chat with. Okay, so I am super excited for. Next, we are going to listen to an exclusive clip from Always Her Love by Melissa Foster. This was provided to us by Lyric Audio. Always Her Love features narrators Aiden Snow and Ava Erickson. We both have read the book.
We have both read the book.
And there's a quick shot. And there's a quick shot for this book. Levi is the dirtiest talking daddy ever.
Yes.
So here we go.
When are you going? Next Saturday. Charmaine has a few new listings coming up on other parts of the island, so I figured I'd wait and see them all at once. Great, I'll go with you. The prospect of looking at houses with Levi was as nerve-wracking as it was exciting. Are you coming back next weekend? I am now, he said happily. You don't have to come back just to help me look at houses. But yes, please. I want to. Houses are my jam, and Joey will be thrilled to see her grandparents and Hadley again. Jock had adopted Hadley when he and Daphne were married, and Joey adored her cousin. Are you sure you don't mind? I know how busy you are. I'm never too busy to help you. He set that sexy smile on her again. It would be so easy to twist that thoughtfulness into something more. You're giving up 2 weeks to spend with us. I think I can handle checking out a few houses with you. That made it easier. He was merely repaying a favor. Not that she needed to be repaid, but she could use his expertise when evaluating the properties. Okay, if you really don't mind. Thanks. Great. What time is your first appointment? 10. I'll take an early ferry and pick you up at your parents' house. Does that work? Yes, perfectly. I look forward to it. I guess I'd better get back to my run. Will I see you tonight at Rock Bottom? There had been a small celebration last night at Indy's boutique for Archer and Indy's engagement, which had included family and friends. Tonight's parent and kid-free celebration was hosted by Wells Silver, one of Bellamy's older brothers, at his restaurant, Rock Bottom Bar and Grill, one of the hottest night spots on the island. Yes, I'm going with Jules and Bellamy. It should be a lot of fun. Awesome. And it's a date. Did she miss something? A date? To look at houses together. Oh, right. Yes. Sorry, my mind is on 100 things. Busy day ahead? Yes. But that's not what had me sidetracked. I'm taking pictures at the annual police and fire department car wash. Taking pictures of shirtless guys? He arched a brow. Think you can handle it without losing your mind? She gave him a deadpan look. Ha ha. Hey, that was your warning, not mine. It wasn't meant for me. You're shirtless and I'm doing just fine, aren't I? Yes, you are, and that doesn't bode well for my ego. He winked. I'll see you tonight. He took a few steps and glanced over his shoulder, holding up his tank top. Guess I'd better put this on so I don't cause any accidents. He put on his tank top and jogged down the road. Your ego is fully intact, she called after him. My heart, on the other hand, is a work in progress.
While Levi was thrilled that 3 of his siblings had found love, there was only so much nuzzling a guy could take when he was struggling with things he shouldn't be thinking about. He excused himself to get a drink and ordered at the bar. A cute brunette was making eyes at him, trying to catch his attention. There were plenty of beautiful women there, but Levi's focus was riveted to the gorgeous off-limits blonde dancing with Bellamy and Jules. Tara might be the epitome of sweet and careful in her daily life, but when she danced, she morphed into a pure, cock-hardening seductress. He didn't think she even realized it. It was like she became possessed by the music, moving sensually in a clingy, off-the-shoulder yellow top that stopped just shy of her low-waisted, curve-hugging skinny jeans, giving Levi, and too many other men, glimpses of bare flesh and her sexy belly button. Heat sparked beneath Levi's skin, simmering hotter with every rock of her hips. Fuck. He told himself to look away, but he couldn't. He didn't want to. He'd always kept a protective eye on her, so why was his mind going places it shouldn't? Places it had tiptoed over the years, but he'd been quick to shut down and deny. His damn brother had him analyzing more than Tara's interactions with him. He had Levi questioning his own motives and noticing her in new ways, and it was irritating the hell out of him.
Oh my God, those voices fit them so well.
They're so perfect. Like, that sounded like Tara. Like, that was Tara's inflection and Tara's...
Well, and Aiden has that, like, gravel, like, oh my God. Their voices, that was such a good choice.
So good. Okay, so I guess I'm now buying the audiobook.
God, it was so good.
I'm gonna have to listen to this. That is so good. Like, that was Tara and Levi, and I love that they gave us the snippet of her and then him at the bar because and also
that's such a good scene too. Like in
Ava
the book.
Erickson is one of my favorite female audiobook narrators.
I haven't listened to her yet, so this is like my first time hearing her because again, like I'm new into the audio world, but she has a really nice cadence.
She does, and I really like her inflection, and she just brings a little something extra to the book. And Aiden Snow is dreamy and fantastic, but she kind of upstages him a little bit in those 2 clips.
I do like him. I was on a deep binge of his delightfulness in my ears the other day.
Okay, so Always Her Love is available now wherever you buy your audiobooks. Lyric Audiobooks offers audiobook production services to some of the best indie romance authors. You can find out more about Lyric Audiobooks at www.lyricaudiobooks.com. Okay, Leah, it's that time.
It's for book
of the week. What's your book of the week?
Book of the week. My book of the week. I've actually been in a binge of listening and rereads, but I did read the new one from Lonnie Lynn Vale. It's called Never Trust the Living. It is the final book in her Battle Crow series. It's Bram and Dory's story, and it was so much more than I was expecting. Like, it went a totally different direction. It was delightful and wonderful. And I'm really sad the series is over. Like, I want to go back and read book 1 again just because it was really, really, really good.
Okay.
But it introduced like some of the characters for her new series. So I'm excited.
Okay. I know you're a big fan of hers, so.
I am. What was your book of the week?
So our friend Shauna over at Wildfire sent me Wildwood, because my brain's not working. Sent me an advance copy of The Matchmaking CEO by Layla Hagen.
Oh, this one sounds really good.
Okay, this is a new release and it's a new series, and the book involves hero Jake Whitley, his matchmaking grandmother, and party planner Natalie.
I love
Their
matchmaking
meet cute.
grandma.
Their meet cute is on his private airplane headed to Martha's Vineyard, and she gets airsick because she ate the smorgasbord in the private dining area, like lounge area of the airport while she waited for him to show up. How does she go on
his private airplane?
So Grandma has set her up.
Oh.
Grandma wants a 90th birthday party and has decided that the perfect place to have this intimate gathering of 50 is her grandson's Martha's Vineyard mansion.
Okay.
And
it sounds wonderful.
So they meet on the airplane and she ends up air sickness, like bad. Like she hands the vomit bag. It's so good. It's so good. And he does not want her there. He does not want her there. It's what you come to expect from Layla Hagen. There's family drama. Mm-hmm. There are brothers. And then part of the drive for Grandma is they want Jake. He lives in New York City. He's the only brother that doesn't live in Boston. They want him to come back to Boston to run the advertising arm of the families. They have a bunch of different... conglomerate with a bunch of different arms. But he doesn't want to live in Boston because that's where his dad used to live. And shortly before his mother passed away, he found out his dad had a second family.
Ooh.
And the three stepbrothers the three half brothers have been folded into the family. And anyway.
Oh, and he's
bitter and angry at them.
He's grumpy about it.
Super grumpy. Super. So anyway, highly recommend it, and it's in Kindle Unlimited, and I'm excited for the rest of this series. Like, cannot wait. Because Grandma is a matchmaker.
I love a matchmaking grandma.
Yeah, me too.
So have you visited the website to vote for your ultimate girl crush and romance? Becky and I are doing our girl crush episode coming up, and the final day for voting will be October 28th.
Yes, and that episode drops November the 6th, so you will find out our top, each of us will have a top 7 girl crushes, and then the last one will be whoever wins the community vote. So that will be all good things.
All good things.
So Patreon update. We recently updated our Patreon perks. Some of our perks include monthly swag packs, bonus content like Should I Read It, and Buzzing After Dark. We have Drunk Book Club, merch discounts, quarterly reading journals, another round, Coffee of the Month Club, and our bi-monthly author roundtables. I'm excited to announce that in November, we are hosting our next author roundtable discussion, and it will feature author A.L. Jackson. Her roundtable will take place on November the 9th, and details can be found at patreon.com/bookcaseandcoffee. I am so excited to talk with her because I talked to her back in early 2021, but her writing style is so unique, and I think that it will be really interesting to chit chat with her. And
I'm excited because I didn't get to talk to her because I wasn't around yet. And so like I have not had these conversations with her, and I am very excited.
She has a darker edge to her books, but they're not quite dark romance.
Mm-hmm.
They're just edgy, and I'm really excited to sit down and have a discussion with her and find out about her books.
Yeah, I am too. And guess what, everybody? Plot a Book is back. This Thursday, Becky is live on the Tiki Talk with author Sawyer Bennett, and where we are helping her plot a novella. We've had to postpone a couple times because life happened, and
life has happened,
but it's back.
But we do know that this book is going to take place in the Arizona Vengeance world. Dominic will be in it. He is going to play a little bit of a matchmaker. And I believe we will see an appearance from the best book boyfriend in the entire universe.
Cheese and rice.
Wild.
Of course
he's the best. Okay. Drunk Book Club is November 12th. And we are reading Rev to the Max by Melanie Moreland. Melanie will be joining us for the evening. If you would like details to find out how you can become a part of Drunk Book Club, check out bookcaseandcoffee.com/drunkbookclub all together in one big fat word. It is the best night of the month.
Or you can just go to bookcaseandcoffee.com and you will find it somewhere.
You will find it.
You just search for it.
We are super proud of Drunk Book Club. It is like...
It's so much fun and it's a little chaotic. And although I will say that September's was fairly tame. We did not get out of control.
We didn't, but I was drinking water. So maybe that was it.
Probably. But are we bringing the return? Oh no, October is the return of Dirty Pictionary.
Dirty Pictionary is October, but I think we'll have to do it in December too.
You think so?
Yeah, because December's author.
She will love it. She will get a kick out of the Dirty Pictionary.
Anyway, you can find details on our website. Check it out. Have you checked out our sister podcast, Corset and Crown? Lady Sadie and Duchess Katie have spent all of September giving out some amazing book recs, and they have some new episodes dropping now in October. They read spooky Halloween style reads. One involves a hero and a ghost. I don't know. They have had so much fun with their episodes lately, so make sure you go ahead and give them a listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Okay.
Leah, what are we doing next time?
Next time, you are cordially invited to the Buzzing About Romance Wedding Wreck episode. We are going to be sharing all the wedding trope books we love: Jilted Grooms, Runaway Brides, Jilted Brides, Bridesmaids, and Wedding Planners. If there is a wedding book out there, we may just wreck it. But just know, there's a lot of wrecks, but there's a lot of books that we do not talk about too.
Well, and there's a lot of wedding stuff. And I put on Twitter.
So much wedding.
I put on Twitter, I've decided I do read a ton of wedding. When I first went into this episode, I didn't think I was going to have a ton and I was going to have to go searching. And I even did some re-listens and rereads to be like, okay, is this going to work for this episode? I have found out that author Kelly Jamieson loves a wedding as much as I love a wedding. And so when I tagged her on Twitter, she's like, I do. And I have a book I want to write that also involves a wedding. And I'm like, I'm here for it. I'm because she does. She has a jilted bride. She has a runaway bride. Mm-hmm. She has a jilted groom.
I do like a jilted groom because you don't get those as much.
She has a wedding guest and a wedding planner hook up one night stand. Hello.
You could just have a Kelly book for everything.
Yeah. It's truth.
There is a lot of wedding books though. I'm trying to narrow my list down.
I stopped at 45. I stopped at 45.
Talks, let me say, I love them and I hate them at the same time because prep for them. We just recently did a small town episode, and let me tell you, I did not even skim the surface of my small town books that I've read.
Well, and I do think we are going to have to do a second small town romance series because
because you did not skim the surface of your small towns either.
No, in that episode, there were 5 of us. We each gave a total of 5. And then we talked about 2 other kind of on the periphery small town ones. And my list was over 60. Mm-hmm. So I have some posts.
Write all mine down.
I do have some posts on the website of some additional small town recs. So if you haven't checked out our website, you absolutely should, because our on the shelf show notes will give you TBRs for our Trope Talk episodes, but you will also find other book posts groupings.
And all we say to that is, you're welcome.
You're welcome. Until next time, everyone.
Happy reading, everybody.
Find us on Instagram at Buzzing About Romance, or on Twitter at Buzzing Romance. If you like the podcast, please leave a review. If you'd like to support us directly, join the Bookcase and Coffee Patreon and receive exclusive content only available to Patreon members. Check out bookcaseandcoffee.com for our on-the-shelf show notes.